On an autumn afternoon in Boston, as amber leaves twirled gently to the ground, Emily Carter gazed out the library window. She had worked as a librarian at this quiet neighborhood branch for over 15 years, finding solace in the hushed world of books. With her chestnut hair tied back in a simple bun, her face carried the warmth of wisdom and quiet resilience. Which city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. And hey, make sure you watch till the end. Something's going to happen that you won't see coming. Emily, did you finish reorganizing the new history section? Her colleague Carol asked softly, peeking from behind a bookshelf. Almost. Done. I'll wrap it up tomorrow morning, Emily replied with a gentle smile. Emily's parents, Richard and Linda Carter, ran a modest real estate agency in the Boston suburbs. Richard was well known in the local property circuit, and Linda was a social butterfly who was often seen at charity events and fundraisers. Among their two daughters, they endlessly dotted on their younger one, Rachel. Rachel worked as a manager at an upscale boutique on Newbury Street. Stylish, outgoing, and endlessly ambitious, she had the effortless charm of someone plucked from the pages of a fashion magazine. Her parents admired her openly and often. Emily, you haven't forgotten about dinner tonight, have you? Came Linda's voice over the phone, pulling Emily out of her reverie. Tonight was the usual family dinner. Yes, Mom. I'll be there at 7. Rachel's bringing wonderful news. That girl is on fire lately. Linda's voice brimmed with pride. Do you have any updates? Nothing special, Emily said softly. In truth, she did have something meaningful to share, but it didn't feel like the right time. Dinner, as usual, revolved around Rachel. She spoke animatedly about Boston's social whirlwinds and her growing success at the boutique. Her every word was met with gasps and admiration from her parents, as if she were some glittering celebrity. Now for my news, Rachel said, pausing dramatically just as dessert, a cheesecake was served. I've started seeing Daniel Whitmore. Daniel Whitmore from Whitmore Pharmaceuticals? Richard asked, clearly impressed. Yes, he's the sales director there, Rachel replied with a sparkle in her voice. Last night he took me to this ultra-luxurious place downtown. Everything was just perfect. His father's on the board at the country club, isn't he? Linda beamed. After dinner, as Emily cleared the plates, Linda joined her in the kitchen. Emily, honey, you really need to find someone soon. You're already 36. Time's running out, Mom, Emily said, putting down the dish in her hand. Then, taking a deep breath, she finally said it. Actually, I'm engaged. Linda's hands froze at the sink. What? To who? Mark Bennett. I met him at the library. A flicker of uncertainty passed over Linda's face. Well, when can we meet him? 2 weeks later, Emily brought Mark to her parents' house. Mark Bennett was tall, soft-spoken, and carried a quiet intellect. He wore a modest suit, greeted her parents politely, and answered all their questions with humility. Still, it was clear that his unassuming manner didn't quite impress the Carters. So, Mr. Bennett, what do you do? Richard asked, his tone politely curious. I'm an editor at a publishing house, Mark replied. After dinner, Rachel pulled Emily aside. Emily, don't you think Mark's a bit plain? I mean, are you sure he's enough to make you happy? Emily smiled. We love each other. That's what matters. Well, I guess at your age, you take what you can get, Rachel said with a shrug. 6 months later, Rachel announced her engagement to Daniel. Their parents were ecstatic, throwing a grand engagement party at a high-end hotel. Emily and Mark's engagement quietly faded into the background. Why isn't Mark more involved with the wedding planning? Linda asked one day. Daniel and Rachel visit venues together every weekend. He's just busy with work, Emily said, truthfully. Mark had been distant about the planning, often citing deadlines and meetings. But when they were alone, he was a different person, attentive, sincere, and increasingly open with his feelings. Trust me, he would say, brushing a hand over hers. Everything will be okay. Emily believed him. She was preparing for a simple but heartfelt wedding. Whatever her family thought, she was determined to follow her heart. 2 weeks before the ceremony, Emily visited the small chapel in a Boston suburb where she and Mark had first shared a meaningful moment. The place their bond had deepened. Miss Carter, here's the final schedule, said the church coordinator, handing her a folder. Music, flowers, everything is locked in. Emily flipped through the pages and smiled. The modest wedding was planned with care and intention. The flowers were ordered from a local florist. The cake was being made by a retired pastry chef. She had met through volunteering. Thank you. It's perfect, she said. Her phone rang. It was Rachel. Emily, come home right now. I have news, Rachel said excitedly. I'm at the venue finalizing things. I'll come later. No, come now. Mom and Dad are waiting too. Emily sighed. Rachel always had a way of making everything urgent. For herself, fine. I'll be there in an hour. When she arrived, her parents and Rachel were gathered in the living room. Expensive champagne had already been poured into flutes. Rachel was practically glowing. What's the news? Emily asked. Rachel stood and clutched Daniel's arm. We've set the date for our wedding, she exclaimed. It's going to be at the Grand Boston. Daniel's dad got us in, even though they're fully booked. Emily nodded politely. That's wonderful. When's the date? Rachel grinned. May 15th. Ceremony starts at 2 p.m. Emily's heart sank. That's the exact day and time of my wedding. I know, Rachel said, with a dismissive shrug. But come on, it's the Grand. Your little church can't compare. Before Emily could respond, Richard chimed in. Emily, you should postpone yours. You're the older sister. It's only right. But Dad, I've already sent invitations, booked everything. Emily's voice trembled. Your ceremony won't be anything major, Richard said flatly. Rachel's wedding will have big names attending. It's a huge opportunity for the family business. Linda nodded. Please understand, Emily. Rachel's event will be seen by society. Yours, well, something modest suits you more. Emily bit back the rising emotion. Her face remained still, but inside her chest, a storm was brewing. Rachel's voice cut through. Your dress, your venue, it's all kind of, well, shabby. It's better for everyone if you just cancel. Emily turned to her sister. You're serious? Come on. Rachel scoffed. Mark's just a guy with a desk job. Daniel's an executive at a billion-dollar firm. Yes, Linda added. And Daniel's family is very well connected. They'll bring in valuable contacts. It's best if you let this go. Emily looked at her family, the people who had always held Rachel up while disregarding her own hopes and efforts. I understand, she said, standing quietly. See? I knew Emily would be reasonable, Rachel said cheerfully. You'll cancel right away, right? Emily didn't respond. She simply grabbed her bag and walked out. As she closed the front door behind her, she heard Rachel's laugh and Linda's voice, proud and sweet. That's my clever girl. Back in her car, Emily's phone lit up. It was Mark. How did it go? His steady voice always had a calming effect. Terrible, she said, holding back the lump in her throat. They want me to cancel the wedding. For Rachel. Come over, Mark said. Let's talk. Mark's apartment was modest but cozy. He made her tea and listened quietly as she shared everything: the pressure, the dismissal, the disrespect. They want me to give up our wedding. Just like that, Emily's voice cracked. Because her venue is grander. Because she's younger. Because she's always been the favorite. Mark reached for her hand, his grip warm and grounding. What do you want? I want to get married as we planned, she said without hesitation. This is our day. It should be ours. Mark smiled gently. Then that's exactly what we'll do. But my family, it doesn't matter if they don't come, Mark said quietly. We have each other, and the people who matter. Emily looked into his eyes, full of patience and promise. She nodded, her decision sealed. Let's go ahead. No matter what. He wrapped his arms around her. Everything will work out. On the morning of the wedding, Boston's skies were clear and soft light poured through the windows of the chapel's bridal room. Emily sat before a mirror as Rebecca, Mark's cousin, pinned the last piece of her hairstyle in place. You look stunning, Emily, Rebecca whispered. Mark's a lucky guy. Emily smiled faintly, though a mix of joy and sorrow still churned in her chest. Her parents hadn't contacted her once since that conversation. She had tried to reach out, only to be met with silence or coldness. Rachel too had vanished. It's sad your family won't be here, Rebecca said gently, sensing the heaviness in the air. I'm grateful you and our friends are, Emily said sincerely. That's what really matters, people who sincerely wish us well. Looking out the window, she noticed something unexpected: cars beginning to pull into the chapel's parking lot. Not just any cars, high-end ones. Rebecca, did we invite this many people? Emily asked, puzzled. Rebecca peered out the window. Oh my gosh, are those Rolls Royces? Indeed. In the lot stood rows of luxury vehicles. Men in suits exited one after another, heading toward the chapel. What's happening? Emily whispered. Is this still my wedding? A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Mark's best friend, Tyler, poked his head in. Emily, just a heads up, the guest list's grown a little. A little? She blinked. Who are they? Tyler shrugged, grinning. Mark mentioned a few extra invites, like leaders from Boston's business scene, and, I think, the governor just arrived. The governor? A text buzzed on Emily's phone. It was from Mark. Don't worry, everything will work out. I love you. Bewildered but touched, she went on with her preparations. Her wedding dress, simple, elegant, fit her like it was made for her. The pearl necklace she wore, gifted by Mark's mother, shimmered softly. Just as the ceremony time approached, the door burst open. Her parents stood in the doorway, looking flustered. Rachel was with them, her face tear-streaked and makeup smeared. Emily, Linda cried, rushing to her. Why didn't you cancel the ceremony? Emily stared back, steady. I told you, we're going ahead. But Rachel's wedding, Richard began. I don't care, Rachel snapped. Her voice cracked as she spoke through sobs. David's parents and all their guests are furious. Emily frowned. What are you talking about? At that moment, Mark entered the room, looking striking in a black tailored tuxedo. You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony, Emily whispered. Startled, but his presence grounded her instantly. What's going on, Mark? He looked at her and gently took her hand. Turns out Rachel and David never actually booked their venue, he said calmly. They assumed you'd cancel yours, and never made a proper reservation. Emily's jaw dropped. What? They thought you'd fold like always, Mark continued. And now, all their guests have no place to go, Rachel stammered. I thought she'd cancel. Linda spoke, exhaustion evident in her voice. Rachel and David believed your ceremony was so small it didn't matter. They didn't think you'd go through with it. Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. Emily, please, Richard pleaded. Let Rachel have the venue. David's family is outraged. It's hurting the business, Linda added. If we lose their favor, our company could collapse. Emily stared at them, the same parents who had so easily dismissed her happiness days earlier. Now they were reaping the results of their favoritism. Please, Rachel sobbed. David says he'll call off the engagement if this isn't fixed. Emily inhaled deeply. Her voice was quiet but firm. You told me to cancel my wedding, she said, but I chose to live my life. I'm sorry, but the ceremony's about to begin. But Emily, Linda began, her tone desperate. Mark stepped forward. This is our day, he said firmly. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, if you wish to attend your daughter's wedding, you're welcome as guests. But the ceremony will not be delayed, and it will not be handed over. There was something powerful in his voice, a strength Emily hadn't seen before. Her parents were stunned. Rachel broke into louder sobs. I hate you, she screamed. You've ruined my life. Outside, voices began to rise. Curious, Tyler peeked through the chapel window. Whoa, he muttered. That guy yelling at David? That's his father. The scene unfolding outside was chaos. David's father, red-faced with rage, was shouting, No venue? What do you take my guests for? Do you know how humiliated I am? David tried to calm him. We're looking for alternatives, don't make me laugh. You've disgraced us. Emily turned away from the window and looked at Mark, confused and overwhelmed. What is happening? He squeezed her hand. There's a lot I haven't told you, but trust me, everything will be clear soon. He smiled softly. I'll protect you. And today the truth comes out. Though questions swirled in her head, Emily nodded. She trusted him. She adjusted her veil. Let's go, she said. Let's start our wedding. Mark opened the door and took her arm. The church organ began to play, and Emily stepped into the hallway, ready to face her future. Behind her, her parents and Rachel stood frozen. Dad, Mom, Emily turned back briefly. Take your seats. This is my wedding. The pastor's solemn voice echoed through the chapel as sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, bathing Emily's dress in soft light. She stood beside Mark, her fingers wrapped around his. David's father sat at the back, seething with rage, surrounded by restless guests. David, pale and sweating, whispered frantic explanations that fell on deaf ears. What a disaster, someone muttered. Why are we even here? I didn't come to attend her sister's wedding. David's father growled. What were you thinking? Dad, please keep your voice down, silenced David. This is an embarrassment to our family. But the ceremony carried on. Emily and Mark exchanged vows. When the pastor finally said, I now pronounce you husband and wife, a round of applause rang out. Emily looked at Mark, joy bursting in her chest. Tears streaked her cheeks as he pulled her close. The reception was held in a hall adjacent to the church, but it was no longer the simple space they had booked. It had been completely transformed. Soft candlelight glowed from elegant centerpieces. White florals cascaded along the tables. It looked like a venue straight out of a luxury wedding magazine. Mark, I made a few upgrades, he said with a wink. Wanted it to feel like something worthy of you. Emily clutched his hand, overwhelmed with gratitude. As the reception began, Mark raised his glass to toast. Everyone, thank you for joining us on this special day, he said, voice calm and confident. Emily, meeting you was the greatest gift of my life. I'm grateful for your warmth, your wisdom, and above all, your sincerity. Emily's eyes glistened. Today, Mark continued, I'd like to share something with all of you. A murmur passed through the guests. Emily tilted her head, curious. You were told I work as an editor at a publishing house, Mark said. But the truth is, I'm the next president of Bennett International. Gasps filled the room. Bennett International was one of the largest corporations in North America, its name synonymous with power and prestige. David's face went ghost white. His father's company, Whitmore Pharmaceuticals, was one of Bennett International's key clients. I wanted someone who loved me for who I am, Mark said quietly. Not my status, not my wealth. And Emily, she loved me for me. Tears ran down Emily's face. The hall buzzed with stunned whispers. David's father stood quickly and approached Mark. Mr. Bennett, congratulations on your marriage. About our ongoing partnership with Bennett International. Mark raised his hand calmly, stopping him mid-sentence. Mr. Whitmore, I'm sorry, but there's one more thing I need to say publicly. The room fell silent. Emily turned to him, confused by the sudden shift in tone. Mark's expression grew resolute. It's about how my wife was treated. I commissioned an investigation after learning some troubling things. What I discovered was intentional cruelty. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket. These are emails exchanged between Rachel Carter and David Whitmore, proof that they deliberately planned their wedding on the same day as Emily's in hopes she would cancel. They hadn't even booked a venue. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. I quote, Mark read, Emily will definitely give in. She always does. We don't even need to reserve a venue. No one cares about her wedding anyway. Everyone turned to look at Rachel and David. Rachel's face flushed deep crimson. Her head dropped. David looked around nervously, his collar tugged tight around his throat. I can't, in good conscience, Mark continued, do business with people who tried to sabotage my wife's happiness. David's father's face twisted with fury. David, he snapped. What have you done? I won't let you marry someone who behaves like this. Dad, David stammered, looking at Rachel. You said Emily would cancel. You promised. He slipped the engagement ring off his finger. David, no please. Rachel sobbed, breaking down completely. Silence blanketed the room as Emily slowly stood. Her voice was soft but clear. Today is a day of blessings, a day of love. I don't want it tainted by resentment. She turned to Rachel, who was trembling under the weight of her shame. Rachel, I don't hate you. I'm just heartbroken. We're sisters. Why did it come to this? Their parents stood behind her, looking utterly defeated. I'm so sorry, Emily, Linda said, voice shaking. We were wrong. I should have seen it, Richard added. We spoiled her and hurt you. Rachel couldn't look her in the eye. I was jealous, she said through tears. You're everything I'm not. Kind, steady, loved. I didn't know how to deal with that. Emily exhaled. I don't know if I can forgive you today, but maybe, in time, we can rebuild something. Rachel nodded, crying silently. David tried to leave, but his father grabbed his arm, holding him back with a scowl. The engagement was clearly over. Mark stepped beside Emily, his presence like a steady flame. You're amazing, he whispered. This is why I love you. She met his gaze and smiled. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. And it was hers. The reception continued, and the tension slowly faded. Laughter and conversation filled the room again. Emily and Mark shared their first dance under soft lights. They cut the cake, clinked glasses, and took photos surrounded by those who truly celebrated them. Her parents sat in a quiet corner, speaking little. Regret was carved into their expressions. Later, as Emily rested her head against Mark's chest, she whispered, Do you think I'll ever be able to reconcile with them? Mark gently squeezed her hand. Time heals. What matters is You chose yourself. You chose us. Emily smiled. For the first time, she felt light, truly free. 3 months later, Emily and Mark had returned from their honeymoon in France and Italy. They were settling into their new home, a timeless colonial-style mansion nestled among ancient oaks in the Boston suburbs. Mornings were slow and warm. Emily still worked at the library. Mark had officially taken the helm as president of Bennett International. They lived in a world of high expectations, but their world still centered around quiet love, shared dinners, and books read together. By the fire, Emily. Mark said one morning at breakfast, "Your mother called again." Sunlight streamed across the kitchen. Emily cradled her coffee and looked down. She had received a few messages, apologies from her parents. She hadn't responded yet. Maybe. "It's time," she said quietly. The next day, she met her parents at a small cafe tucked into the corner of a quiet street. Linda and Richard looked older, thinner, more subdued. "Emily." Linda stood up the moment she saw her daughter. "Thank you for coming, Mom." "Dad, I'm sorry." Linda's voice cracked. "Truly, we hurt you. We let Rachel become something we never should have allowed. We were wrong," Richard added. "We neglected you, and we're paying the price." Emily studied their faces. The arrogance was gone. In its place, regret, humility. "What about Rachel?" "She's struggling," Linda admitted. "The engagement's over. David's family disowned her. He blamed her for everything. She quit her job," Richard added. "She's staying with us. We're having trouble supporting her, especially with the company slowing down." Rachel said she wants to apologize, Linda said softly. Emily paused, then nodded slowly. "I'll need time." That night, Emily spoke with Mark. He supported her completely. "Family is family," she said, "even if forgiveness takes time." Weeks later, she met Rachel at a park bench near the river. Gone was the polished, fashionable sister. In her place stood a woman humbled by consequence. "I'm sorry," Rachel whispered. "Truly, I was drowning in jealousy. You were always kind. I didn't know how to handle that." Emily took a deep breath. "I'm not ready to forget everything. But maybe we can start again slowly." Rachel nodded through quiet tears. Mark continued his contract with Whitmore Pharmaceuticals, but David was discreetly reassigned. His career never quite recovered. Rachel enrolled in a local college, trying to rebuild. One evening, snow began to fall softly outside the window. Emily sat beside the fireplace, wrapped in a throw, sipping hot tea. Photos from their wedding lined the mantel. Mark walked over, wrapped his arms around her. "Any regrets?" he asked, kissing her hair. She smiled and shook her head. "Not for a moment. Meeting you gave me the courage to live as myself." Their love, quiet and strong, carried them forward. And day by day, Emily came to believe what she had always hoped, that no wound was beyond healing, and no life was beyond reclaiming.